Okay, alright everyone, I'm doing a film review with David Short.
Hi.
I want to cry. Alright, we reviewed Taintlight. We watched Taintlight. We literally just watched it.
It's painful.
This movie is harder to watch than The Room.
No.
At least The Room you can make fun of. This movie is trying to be funny, and yet it is completely horrible. Alright, the first thing I can say about this movie, one, this thing is shot with a mini DV camcorder. It's definitely obvious that it is. And it's shot with in-camera sound. You can hear the tape in the background sometimes.
It's ridiculous. You look at any given shot, and you want to punch it. I mean, it's not...
You want to punch everything about it.
Everything about it. There was...
Alright, well, we gotta start somewhere. Okay,
I guess let's start with the storyline.
Alright, the story obviously is trying to parody Twilight.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand that. I don't have a problem with people making Twilight parodies because I have seen some that are good. But you said this in the very beginning of the movie when we were watching it. It looks like a really long YouTube video.
Exactly.
It looks like a really long YouTube video. And the longest one I've ever seen. It's
60 minutes long. And
almost exactly. It's almost exactly an hour.
I have a feeling, because we said this before, it was shot on mini DV. I have a feeling that this was a school project. This was some sort of school project.
That's what we originally thought.
Oh, God.
And to be honest, I still think that. But the thing is, the director, Chris Seaver, I believe his name was. This guy, he plays a cameo character in the movie, which... One is one of the most annoying things I've ever seen on screen next to Jar Jar Binks.
I'd put him over Jar Jar.
Oh, well, no, way over Jar Jar.
Way over Jar Jar.
But this guy looks like he's in his, late 20s to early 30s. If he's back at school, he's going back to school because... Oh, my God.
All right. Well, hold on.
All right,
so storyline, let me give you the basics here. Starts out essential Twilight. I mean, you got the girl, she's coming to town, whatever. Within the first monologue by the girl playing Stella, not Bella, Stella, she mentions all this stuff about how her mom died, blah, 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 and that she's on her period. You'd think it's a nice little throwaway gag. Oh, ha, period joke. Not funny at all. But here's the problem. It keeps coming back.
It keeps being used in almost every other scene in the movie.
It's terrible.
And one, the joke is said at first completely out of nowhere. And alright, okay, now we originally sat down for this film just to see if we can watch the first 5 minutes, because we heard such bad stuff about this movie. We set a timer. It's like, all right, we're gonna watch the first 5 minutes and see if we can do it. Within the first 5 minutes, there were at least 3 references to incest.
No. That was after the title. We have to talk about before the title.
Oh, before the title. Okay.
In the first Twilight, at least I personally can't remember back because I do not want to watch that movie again. But in the first Twilight, there was a scene where the vampires are coming after some guy. Just some guy, you never even see him again.
Yeah.
They do that in this one. How are they coming after him? He's in the woods.
Well, she.
Oh,
wait, no.
It's the guy.
Yeah, it is the guy first.
So the guy is in the woods. Why is he in the woods? He's taking a dump. That is literally the first shot you see.
Yeah.
Him taking a dump. That basically sets the tone for the entire movie.
And when the sequence goes on, he's literally taking a shit in the forest, and then this thing comes up, and he tries to run away. And as soon as he thinks he gets away, he's like, and literally he says this. I literally have seen more creative use of shit gags in Andreas Schnatt's movies, violent shit. So this movie is ridiculous. So he literally just says, oh, I guess I'm free. Well, I guess it's time to take another shit.
Yeah, he does it.
That's literally the line. Thanksgiving had a more memorable, tight beginning sequence than this movie.
And if you haven't seen Thanksgiving, don't. It's not worth it.
I just recently watched it again a couple days ago, and it's more memorable than this shit. But moving on.
All right. So, of course, there's the period joke, blah, blah, blah. Then you're introduced to the father. The father of Stella. I'm not even sure if he's given a name.
He's the same age as the other actress.
But, of course, as the father in the Twilight movies has that mustache that is just so him.
It's glued on.
It's glued on.
It's taped onto his face.
What is it? American Chopper. Is that the show?
I think so.
One of the, like...
It's a handlebar mustache. It's
exactly.
a handlebar mustache. And it literally looks like someone just cut this thing out. Like, it's attached to tape and whatnot, and they just cut out a shape and put it onto this guy's face.
And that isn't the worst part about his character.
No. He's constantly trying to fuck the daughter. He's trying to constantly making references. And also, alright, one, they have a couple fourth wall breaks in this movie. And the first one happens in one of the earliest scenes. And she literally looks at the camera and she says the fact that, you know, my dad wanted a boy, but this is what he gets and all this other stuff, which leads into this really twisted semblance of a relationship with the father and the daughter. But
he gives her a porno mag.
Yeah.
He comes back, close your eyes.
And these are from your old man.
I used these when I was your age. Alright, that's super movie.
No wonder half the pages stick together. But,
oh my god.
Moving on, the people...
No, we gotta...
Yeah,
Jake.
No, I'm moving to the next character. Sorry, Jake, the person who plays Jake in this movie.
Do you remember his character's name?
No.
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 He was that forgettable.
He was that unbelievably forgettable. And
oh my god.
It goes down to a point where the character Jake, they literally introduce this character as like, oh, you can't forget the first guy who fingers you.
Yeah, apparently that's his only role.
Yeah, and that's all. And that joke is referenced so much in the rest of the movie. There's no reason for it. It just constantly referenced the fact that he just wants to fuck her. And yeah, okay. And going back to the whole point of the movie, I get it's supposed to be a parody. I get it's trying to make fun of it. But the thing is, if it was actually written well to parody this stuff, that's fine. But this is literally just stupid, nonsensical crap.
Alright, hold on. Hold on.
I wish I had a better vocabulary to describe it, but the thing is, it's called Taintlight, so I can't stop calling it shit.
I don't want to stand too long. Okay, you know how she had that group of, 4 friends? The Asian girl, the Asian boy, and the other 2 people. I don't even remember them from the Twilight movies. They are even more forgettable in this movie.
It's 2 friends.
2 friends.
It's
one. She's a theater girl. You know that's the only reason she's in on this movie.
Yeah.
Because, hey, oh my god, you're making a movie? I totally want to be an actress when I grow up. I totally want to be in your movie.
Yeah. And
that's it.
And also, the other friend is a big, heavy-set black metrosexual, which is described later in the movie and whatnot, but at first we come off as gay. I mean, that's supposed to be the joke, but at the same time, I get playing for stereotypes, but this is fucking ridiculous.
It was offensive. That's all it basically
Yeah, it's like...
Anyway, the whole thing is apparently everyone in school had heard how Stella was Jacob's... I'm just calling him Jacob because I don't know his name. However, Stella was Jacob's first finger bang, and oh my god.
And that's the whole thing. It's like, this is going to be the front page of the newspaper and shit like that. And then you get introduced to Edward's character. What's his name? Edmund in this one?
It's Edgar Mullins.
Edgar Mullins.
Now, of course, they took out the 2 older vampires and just stuck with Jackson Rathbone, who was actually named Rathbone in the movie. They didn't even bother changing that.
Yeah, they didn't even bother changing the name.
And the other girl. They're not as forgettable, but that's
not saying much.
No. If someone had asked me quickly, name 1 side character from Taintlight, or I'm going to blow your brains out.
I'm sorry, not a single name comes to mind.
Not one.
Not a single name.
Rathbone, that's it. You know who was the most memorable out of the entire thing?
What?
The mime. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the mime.
The mime. Okay, we'll get to the mime, right. Definitely.
So, all the kids are like, oh, those are the Mullins. They're the most popular kids in school.
And everybody wants to fuck them.
Oh, of course. I don't think they go 10 seconds without talking about sex. No, they do during the end.
But the thing is, though, like, there's a difference between talking about sex in a way that's supposed to be actually constructive. Like, if you compare Kids, Larry Clark's movie Kids, which is primarily the entire focus of the movie, it's the point, though. It's a character study about the people in the 90s in inner city New York. This one, literally, no subtlety, no grace, not even good dialogue to even bring it about. I know lots of people are going to call me a hard ass because it's not supposed to be taken seriously. But the thing is, though, when it openly mocks filmmaking the way it does, it's like Friedberg and Selznick, the guys who made the Date movie and Epic movie and whatnot. They had an interview with them, and the thing is, though, they literally do what they do because they say that they're mocking and getting back at pretentious filmmakers and whatnot. But the thing is, it's no excuse.
Well, what is it? The father character, his first appearance, he walks out with that dumbass mustache. But the moment that your eyes are drawn away from the mustache, you go down to his shirt. One of the shirt says, I hate actors. Well, you certainly aren't one, sir. You are the worst acting job I've ever seen ever, and I hope you're watching this. Because that was disturbing.
And, alright, there are limitations to what I think. Now, one, I have a very dark sense of humor. So the thing is, things that are usually taken as offensive to people, I usually do crack up about. I mean, I'm a huge fan of George Carlin and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, the jokes that they have in this movie regarding whatever they might have to do involving sexual acts, and usually there's this one scene where the father character is discovered to wake up that he's standing over his daughter's bed and beating off. And I'm like, this isn't funny.
No, that's not the worst part about the scene. The worst part is the daughter then lays back down and says, just finish.
Just finish. Yeah. I laugh at the incredulousness of it. It's actually a marvel to see that the depths these people will sink in order to get a dark chuckle. But at the same time, I can't even laugh out of the offensiveness sake. I can't. I can't do it. I laugh at the Marquis de Sade. I can't laugh at this one.
Well,
but
first 5 minutes. I saw you. You were already sitting like this.
Yeah, I was. And I after the first few minutes and whatnot, it got to a point where it was bad, but it was tolerable. I can never say it. Tolerable. It was very tolerable. And it was tolerable up to the half-hour mark. So the halfway through this movie.
That's it. We were checking the time.
Yeah, we were.
What we felt was like every 20 minutes. No, it was every 5.
It was every 5.
Every 5 minutes we checked that clock and looked, it's only been 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Like, I think that the hallmark of a really good movie is no matter how long it is, you can watch it and it doesn't feel as long as it is. This movie literally feels twice as long as its actual running time.
If you want to be able to live longer, you want to make it to the year 2100, just set this video on repeat constantly. You will feel as though you are stuck at one moment in time.
Time is slowing down.
This is how bad that is, but we digress.
Yes, we do digress.
Essentially, it just follows Twilight. They have these weird scenes with weird faces. They focused about a collective, 5 minutes in a classroom of Edgar just doing this.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me move up here. Edgar just doing this.
And the whole joke, it literally has all these shots between him and Stella, which literally is just him doing this for like 2 to 3 minutes long. And then she sits down, and then he just says, if you're going to fart, at least
at least
apologize and whatnot. And then I'm like, and then it ends. That was the whole scene.
Okay, we should bring this up. Every scene transition. Fade to black. fade
to picture. You know, it's like every single one. It's always a fade out, fade in, and it never changes, except for that one bit where it literally looked like they had a bit of really horrible flash editing.
We'll go to that. So it follows the rest of Twilight, where they had the classroom scene, and again, it just did you and me and stuff, and then the car scene, where he stops the car. Now, you remember that mime I was telling you about? They're all talking. They make a gay joke about the one gay guy. Ha, 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 so damn funny. And then she's called over by Jacob, and this mime comes around the corner with a steering wheel.
And it's supposed to replicate the van in the original film.
A mime.
Now, I get the joke.
I don't get the joke.
I get the joke because the thing is, the van was driving around the parking lot in the original film, screeching its tires. How in the world could she not hear it? Okay. I get that joke, but it doesn't make it funny. And especially since how he saved Stella from the van, or from the mime in this case. The editing in this movie is so poor.
Oh my god.
I mean, I have to say that. We already talked about the scene transitions and whatnot. The editing in this movie is so poor that, and we'll get to it when we get to the final half of the movie, I can't understand what is going on sometimes. And some scenes just drag on pointlessly with no reason. It's just people doing these stupid facial expressions. And I get it's supposed to mimic the face, the up-close looks, and the up-close angle shots in the original film. But it doesn't make it funny.
Every single shot, it's either zooming really quickly in or really quickly out. There is no steady, this is a shot. There is none of that. It's always, if my face was the camera, this is essentially every shot.
Pretty much. And actually, the funny thing is, it moves back and forth like that when it zooms in and out. Exactly. You can definitely tell there's a digital zoom at work on this thing.
Oh, yeah, they don't own a tripod, by the way.
Oh, no. I can't,
every single thing.
I can't imagine one single shot in this movie actually being mounted on something at all. I think it's usually someone just holding it. And that's probably why sometimes you get muffled sound. Alright, coming back to the shots of the movie, there is no white balancing in this entire film. Now, every single scene is a different color, a different tint.
As he is the filmmaker, editor guy, and I'm just an acting guy, I didn't have as big of a problem with this. This was just something that, yes, it looks like it's on YouTube. If you can watch any digital video put on YouTube, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, if you could put any part of this movie out, you think it's a YouTube clip.
But I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, you're upset about this because it has the YouTube qualities of the bad white balance and stuff like that, but it's on Netflix. Yes.
Yeah.
It's on Instagram.
It has distribution. This thing has just as much critical potential as Fred the movie, which is also on Netflix, I might say. Now, granted, there is one thing about Netflix. I love the fact that it is easy distribution for lots of movies that you can't normally find. My friend Miguel has his movie Red Cockroaches on it, which is really hard to find anywhere else.
By the way, that wasn't a plug. Just saying.
But at the same time, there is so much crap on Netflix that I can't imagine. I mean, you have to take the good with the bad, but there's only so many limits I'm willing to go.
For every Memento on Netflix, and yes, I like that film, I don't care what you say.
I love Memento.
Well, someone out there doesn't. Anyway. Back to the story. You can see how bad this movie is by how quickly we get off track. There was the mime.
Yeah, we get to the mime.
After that, it's
the whole scene in the woods.
Yeah, and okay, let's just skip the obvious. Say it out loud. Which
because they run that joke like 3 times in this movie.
And they screwed it up each time.
Yeah. It gets to the point where he's supposed to sparkle in the sunlight.
And he doesn't sparkle in the sunlight. Apparently, every vampire has their own agitation to the sunlight.
His type, apparently, is he gets a boner and then starts coming bubbles.
It's terrible.
And this is the part in which it was really hard not to turn off the movie. And I have seen some horrible movies in my time. I have seen lots of Uli Lamel's filmography. I've seen Uwe Boll's movies. I've seen Ed Wood. I've seen bad films, but this is literally pushing it. This is up there with movies like Birdemic and Side Effects.
I will give them one good trait about the whole movie. They at least relieve us every 15 minutes. No sooner, mind you. Every 15 minutes with one... that was okay.
Yeah, one mediocre joke.
It wasn't...
It garnered one chuckle, at least, from each of us. And I think that might have been the psychological reason of why we kept going. I think that was the only little bit of payoff that we got at the end of each segment, each act of the movie.
It's... You know how
if you could call this movie having acts.
But you know how they say that it's like a car wreck. You can't look away, but it's just so gruesome, stuff like that. You can't compare this to a car wreck. You can compare this to a bus full of orphan children and the nuns that have raised them in their... What's the nun place?
A nunnery, an orphanage, I'm not
whatever,
sure.
that one. And the nuns who raised them careening off a cliff onto the last case of smallpox, thus spreading it throughout the world. That is what you can compare watching this movie to. It's just, you think, oh God, it can't get any worse.
It does.
It does.
It does in the worst possible fashion. That's what brings us to the last half of the movie, where it literally was a chore to watch through every scene in the last part of this film.
That's what we should explain. You know how within, I don't know, first half an hour of the film of the original Twilight, they had established he is a vampire. He has these powers. She is for some reason having some sort of Stockholm syndrome. And for some reason everyone's okay with that.
Everyone's pretty chill with it, and they constantly kept making jokes about that.
Exactly. But the thing about this movie is, it's an hour long. It's not Twilight's time frame of however long. It is an hour. No more, no less. It's just, they still spend the same amount of time setting it up. You spend half an hour before you hear, you're a vampire.
Yeah. And there is no reason why a movie an hour long should have that long of a build-up if it doesn't have anything that's worth paying off that we are not aware of. We know what you're making fun of. The one thing though, before we get to the last half of the movie, Jake apparently is a Michael Jackson werewolf.
Now we should let me explain a little bit more. So we go through the whole thing of those other vampires. One of which is an okay Tim Curry.
So, he basically does portray Tim Curry in some fashion. You can definitely see he's trying to be a Tim Curry.
It's not good, but then they have the other two, and there's this, I think it's Crow, I could be wrong, I haven't seen it, forgive me for that, whoever loves the movie. And then you get this girl. She has just been turned into a vampire.
Yeah.
You see her be turned into a vampire. I'm even, hold on.
The thing is about this one, just picture the most annoying brat you ever had the misfortune to meet in high school, mixed together with the bad scenes of Harley Quinn. I think that pretty much narrows it down.
Oh. Just go on about the Michael Jackson thing.
Alright, the Michael Jackson... Alright, Jake's werewolf appearance in this movie comes down to a part where he's dancing like... He's trying to dance like Michael Jackson, because no one can dance like Michael Jackson. He's trying to do it. He's just doing the bullshit with the hat, really. And he pussy fights away the vampires and runs away with Stella. Alright.
That leads us to one good joke. that I only consider mediocre at that. They're sitting in the car, and everyone's made this joke. Everyone's made this joke. They're sitting in the car, and Jake's talking about, Stella, you shouldn't go to the Mullins. Sorry.
Mullins. Called the Mullins.
Shouldn't go to the Mullins because they're so evil and blah, 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 blah. And by the way, he can't act either.
None of these people can act.
I think the only person who could act is the guy who played Rathbone, because he had... Would you mind asking me a question and I'll answer as Rathbone?
What did you have for breakfast today?
Well, the other day I decided to have myself a large bowl of turds. That is exactly him. That voice.
That pitch. That facial expression the entire time. And of course, you know, when the two siblings get introduced, they're like, we totally fuck.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is just like, you know what's funny? Guess what's funny?
Vampires suck?
No, incest.
And that's pretty much the whole movie. That's pretty much our whole attitude during the rest of this film.
So, wrapping up a good segment of the story that is nothing besides that. They meet up with the Michael Jackson werewolf thing. The Michael Jackson werewolf thing kicks some ass.
Oh,
blah,
yeah.
Blah, blah. And then she goes to Edgar's house. They introduce the twins some more. Not the twins. They're not twins.
They're not near twins.
I hope they're not twins. And they have, like, this weird lesbian erotic scene that really would have made the film a lot better.
Yeah, but it lasted for about 30 seconds,
Not
if
even,
that.
not
So,
even. So then they have that scene, and it's like, oh, hey, stuff and things, and oh my god, Edgar, I got attacked by some old school vampires who still drink blood instead of the wildlife like you do.
the ancestors.
What do you mean, the ancestors?
And that's basically how that scene works.
That's the whole scene. So,
and then they go off and they try to play. They act. I don't care what they call it. It's frisbee. They call it frisbee golf.
Now, some of you may actually know this.
Yeah.
I actually know a little bit about the thing.
You probably know a lot more than I do.
You take the frisbees, and you're basically on a golf course. Except in place of where the holes are for the golf, you now have these little nets that you then toss the frisbees, and in the least amount of shots, you try to get the frisbee into the net. That's basically all it is.
This is not what happens in this scene.
Not at all. They're, of course, doing the baseball scene, where they do all the running and jumping, and oh my god, it's so cool because it's so CGI'd.
But it's not CGI in this, so it's boring. And two, it's not on a baseball diamond or even on a golf course for this game to take place. It's on an indoor soccer field.
But, they actually think, you know what? We should explain that. So they have Stella say, Edgar, why are we playing this inside? And how does he reply?
Well, we just don't need our boners going off and bubbles going everywhere, do we?
What? Even Rosalis? I think that's her name. I really don't care.
I don't know, but apparently according to this type of mythology involving vampires... It's getting tough for me. According to this, females' clits grow to the size of dicks, and then what happens?
At that point, I was on the ground.
I think we both were practically bleeding from our ears at this point. But
so, Jacob, the Michael Jackson werewolf, comes in, and he's like,
no reason for it.
No reason besides
he
protecting Bella.
Well, he catches the frisbee in his mouth with really bad cut and paste editing.
All right, hold on, real quick. Aim that so you can see the back right here. Every single, and I'm not saying one or two, every single shot they do in that frisbee golf scene is like this. You ever seen the Star Wars kid's little thing where he's going around with the lightsaber? Take that and put in a frisbee. Sucks! And it's jump cuts the whole time.
It is jump cuts.
You never see one. If one person throws a frisbee, it's never going to end up being caught in the same shot. It's throw, cut, throw again, cut, catch, cut, nothing, cut, throw, repeat.
And the actual game involved, it actually takes up about 3 to 4 minutes of it constantly just going off like that. And to be honest, it probably was the most tolerable bit of the movie, because there was no one talking.
And then the vamps show up.
The final battle scene happens.
Now, I should point this out right now. They have shown up multiple times that we aren't telling you about. They've shown up and had the dumbest conversations I have ever heard written for the screen.
And frankly, they're so forgettable that we can't even remember what they really said.
I can remember what they said. However, it's going to cause a tumor if I think about it much longer.
Please don't.
Hey. So, the final battle.
The final battle. And we've mentioned the fact that there are awful jump cuts in this movie. The final battle is so, I think, hastily put together. I swear to God, the person who made this movie... Chris Seaver.
Find him.
He edited this movie on, like, iMovie or fucking,
Oh, God. You know what we skipped?
Movie Maker.
Real quick. Sorry about this. We will get back to it. That one non-fade cut. In the movie, we said before, fade black, fade back. Fade back, fade black. I can't even say it.
Fade to fade.
Fade to fade constantly. Except for one. When he's showing off his incredible speed and strength. He doesn't do it by them just speeding up a piggyback ride footage. No, that'd be too easy. Instead, he's inside of the school. He grabs hold of Bella. Suddenly he starts spinning.
Around and around and around.
Bubbles come up for whatever reason.
Bubbles, not shining things. Bubbles.
Bubbles. And then, all of a sudden, we're given a Doctor Who intro.
I don't even think, no, Doctor Who, he's much better involving their intros. Yeah. This stuff literally looks like it was just put together in an afternoon.
No, you know what it looks like? Go to Windows Media Player and turn on the visualizer. Basically,
and that's how it starts. That's exactly how it starts.
Anything.
And then you have like this weird rotating version of the frame involved in this little, visualizer and whatnot of him just spinning around in a clearing in a forest. And then that's the shot we cut to.
And I say, whoa, how did you do that? I have incredible speed and strength.
No, I have Adobe Flash.
That's all.
I mean, it's actually kind of shocking. And the funny thing is, we have spent nearly a half hour griping about this, and we've already we've have the movie's time length right now about things that are just wrong with it. And
hold on, take a deep breath.
All right, we get to the last fight scene, and it's taking place
in 4 seasons.
In 4 seasons.
That's all it is. And if you don't have 4 seasons where you live, think of a sports complex. Think of their soccer field with the AstroTurf and everything and fluorescent lighting. Now imagine the crappiest camcorder you can being taken in there and just thrown around randomly.
I couldn't tell what was happening during the entire fight scene. The cuts were so jagged. The camera work was so unbelievably shaky. And the thing is, though, this is a DSLR, so this thing has a rolling shutter. I mean, like, this thing has a shutter that happens when you move the camera too fast. So it's happening all the time. You can even see the dust on the camera in half the shots. And then, the way that the final vampire dies...
No. First off, they kill... or at least wound. I don't think they ever killed anyone in the whole movie, did they? They killed like 2 people, if even. They maim the Michael Jackson werewolf, then he runs off and scurries away with Bella and the other 2 vampires while Edgar's left to do all the fighting. He starts to lose. He starts to lose. He then takes out one of the vampires. And then there's the one that I said was like the crow. If anyone here respects film as an art form, please leave now, because this won't make you happy. In Kill Bill, Volume 2, the way that Bill dies...
The 5-point palm exploding heart technique.
That one is used exactly, the 5 steps and everything, exactly, on the Crow Vampire.
And, one, if they actually attempted to try to actually mimic the moves in the actual movie, that would be one thing. But this is all that they did in order to do it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Give me a fucking break.
So, there's the last vampire, the leader guy. Edgar and him have this weird battle where it's sometimes he's winning, sometimes he's losing. They make a crack about the hair of the Mullen family. Mildly entertaining. That was the 15 minutes that you needed a mediocre joke. And then...
It was barely mediocre, too.
The most surreal death I've ever seen in a movie. They were playing with the Frisbee. And when he's kicked to the ground, he sees the Frisbee. He picks it up. And he says, what was it? Oh, yeah. Par for course. Apparently a golf joke. Because, you know, frizz golf, or frolf, I think they call it.
Because golf is funny.
Uh-huh. He drops it, kicks it, and it
follows it to
the guy's stomach. It is in the lead vampire guy's stomach.
Not his heart, mind you, where vampires are supposed to die, in his fucking stomach.
And then they cut back to Edgar. What does he say? Hole in one. Forget it! Forget it!
This is... This is basically telling you fuck you to the entire audience. And I go back to say this one simple thing. It basically is a giant fuck you. And I have to say one last thing about this. It does reference a bunch of movies in this movie.
It does the vampire ones. They reference
Interview with a Vampire.
Let's see here. I guess every once in a while, almost not even noticeable, but every once in a while, Edgar's voice went into like the classic Vlad sort of thing, like the
yeah.
It went and can't. It had no purpose.
And it had the balls to reference a good movie. Now, there's an unwritten rule. And now, one, they've already referenced tons of good movies in here. But when it comes down to classics, there is a rule. Do not reference a good movie in your shit-stained movie. But they had the balls to go and rip off A Streetcar Named Desire. Yes, they did do the whole stupid Stella line. If it's not said by Marlon Brando, it ain't worth my fucking time.
To wrap up the movie, they go to the prom. At the prom, they say how they love them, blah, 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 make another sex joke. And then the father, for whatever reason, comes in.
Literally comes up from between them.
Could be funny if played off in the least creepiest way, where he then comes up next to his daughter's shoulder and says, "You know, you look just like your mom did at her age. You know, I'm not wearing any underwear." And then he drops his pants, and the final shot of the movie is that girl vampire from before who ran away is like, "They actually ended with a prom scene? That's the worst ending I ever heard of." No, you know what movie? You just came up with the worst movie ever. Like, not just ending.
You go right from incest to annoyance. I don't understand how you can end on a double tap like that. And I don't think I've actually sat through a movie that has literally made me like this unbelievably angry. That there are some people out there that are able to get distribution, that are able to get funding for these types of shit-tastical movies. And the thing is, when it comes down to spoofing Twilight, one, all you need to do is listen to riff tracks. Yeah. They do it perfectly. There is no single solitary thing in the world that can make fun of Twilight more than the riff tracks guys with the Twilight overview. Because the jokes make themselves. You don't need to go see a stupid parody. You just watch the movie. Two, if you're going to make fun of Twilight, one, South Park's already done it. And that was a fantastic parody. That was a fantastic joke about Twilight, because it wasn't joking about the movie, it was joking about the culture. We already know about the jokes about the movie. We get it. This has already been ingrained in us. We made these jokes. All you guys are doing is recycling crap tons of other people have already made. And just adding a whole lot of incest and shit jokes.
I feel raped.
That's a really dark way of putting it, and some people might get offended, I'm not sure, but at the same time, considering how much referencing to rape that they make in this movie...
If you see the movie, and you manage to handle it...
Bravo!
You are a god among men, or women, I will not judge. But
you're an immortal of some type, and you have far greater dexterity than either one of us.
Look, there are those movies that are bad, that you're like, oh, God, it's so terrible. Just, oh, The Room. Good example.
The Room. Troll 2.
Look at that acting. It's hilarious. And then you reach this movie. This movie is Hellspawn. This movie does everything you're not supposed to do.
This movie makes the DC sniper look like fucking Shooter. I mean, you know, it makes it look like targets. I mean, this movie makes... God. Oh. It makes The Room look like Roman Polanski's Carnage, okay? This is unbelievable. How... Unbelievable. I can't even fucking describe it.
All right. We're gonna end. Last thing I'd like to say, though, is Chris Seaver. I don't know how you managed to get on Netflix,
but we want to know.
We want to know. And honestly, I feel like it's just a matter of money.
I do, but the thing is, if it was a matter of money, this movie would look at least a little bit more, production savvy.
All in all, I'd have to say terrible movie.
Terrible.
Terrible movie, just...
In the words of the Spill crew, it's some old bullshit. I mean, like, it literally is one of the worst films I've ever seen.
But...
I stress the word film.
I want you to watch it. I want you to watch it, and I want you to tell us how many minutes you managed to go in before you considered shutting this tape off.
We managed to get through the whole hour. We even sat through the credits.
The credits aren't that bad until you realize that half the names are just the characters in the movie. They aren't even using real people, as if they were ashamed to put their name on there. And by the way, when you reach a shot in the movie, if you manage to reach this point, if you reach a shot in the movie with a guy going, you'll know him when you get there. That's the director.
That is the director.
That's director/writer of, what is it? I even forgot the name. I can't even remember the name.
Taintlight.
Taintlight. Just watch it. It's streaming on Netflix.
It's streaming on Netflix. You most likely can find it on wherever. You might even find it on YouTube for all we know. So, because, who's going to claim copyright on something that literally looks like a YouTube video the entire time? And that's all I really have to say on this. I could just rant and rave until I turn to static, but that's all I can really say. So, everyone, if you're brave enough to take on the horrors that is this movie, definitely give it a roll.
I'm not even sure I